Hi guys, Wayne here. So I thought I'd give you a few tips on what to do in the event of flash freeze, or it's going to be below freezing for several days. And up north, typically we winterize pools for the winter, but in the Sun Belt, we kind of keep pools running year round, so we don't necessarily winterize them, which involves a whole lot of steps of draining the pool down and blowing out the pipes and putting antifreeze in, those sorts of things. So down here, typically we have freeze guards and things like that to protect us in the event that there is a freeze. However, what do you do if there's a power outage? Now you've got the chance of pipes freezing, filters, pumps, all those things freezing and breaking. So we've got to do something to protect those in that situation. So I thought I'd give you a few tips on what to do, what to drain, in order to prevent damage to the pool equipment in the event of a very cold spell.
In a sudden freeze or case of extended freezing temperatures, the real danger is a power outage. Typically, as long as the equipment is running with the freeze protection working, temperatures can drop as low as 20 degrees, and as long as there's water flowing through the pipes and the equipment, there's really not much danger of the pipes or equipment freezing and cracking. But when the power goes out during a freeze, that can potentially be the end of any above ground plumbing and circulation equipment. During the Texas winter storm in February of 2021, temperatures dropped as low as -2 degrees. Most pool owners that did not lose power or even only had limited power outages found that their pool made it through the almost 10 full days below freezing with little to no problems at all with their pool and equipment, as long as their freeze protection was working properly. Unfortunately, there were around 1 million pool owners that did lose power during that storm, and the consequences were devastating. Most of those pool owners lost some, if not all, of their pool equipment. If they had known how to quickly winterize their pools with a few easy steps, the catastrophe might have been avoided. So here's some tips to help you in the event of a flash freeze, or maybe the temperature is going to be below freezing for an extended period of time. The first thing you need to do is turn the breaker off to the pool equipment. We're going to be disconnecting a lot of pipes, taking loose unions, taking drain plugs out, and we don't want the pool equipment to have any chance to turn back on while we have all of these things disconnected. Once you're certain that the power has been disconnected from the pool equipment and nothing's going to turn on, the next step that I like to move to is the filter, and go ahead and start my winterization of the filter itself. The first step is, if you have the type of filter that requires backwashing and you have a backwash valve, in particular a push-pull style backwash valve, I like to go ahead and remove the plunger from the valve body itself. If it's an old style Pentair type push-pull backwash valve, it has 2 screws on each side. You remove the 2 screws, you lift up on the handle, you can remove the entire piston assembly. If it's a new styled Pentair or a Hayward or a Jandy or any of those have big nuts on the top, and you can simply remove that nut from the top of the valve. Again, just pull straight up on the handle and the entire piston assembly will come out of the valve body. The next step is to remove the filter drain plug. Now, the drain plugs are in different places. On the Jandy cartridge or DE filter, it's kind of at the bottom. Jandy sand filter, it does have a screen in there so the sand won't come out. The Pentair, it's difficult to get to. Use a wrench. The Pentair sand filter, pretty straightforward. Again, sand stays in. Hayward, super easy to get to at the bottom on the DE and also on the sand filter. So the next step is to separate the filter from the backwash valve, or the plumbing if it happens to be a cartridge filter. Cartridge filters don't have backwash valves, but really what we're trying to do here is just make sure there's no excess water trapped in the backwash valve or in the bulkhead or anything like that that could potentially freeze and cause those things to crack. So just from loosening the unions, you'll be able to separate the filter from the backwash valve, unless it's a sand filter. Sand filters are big, heavy, not going to be able to remove the sand filter. But if you do have a cartridge filter, pretty simple, just undo the bulkhead union and you literally can just pull the plumbing back a little bit so it removes any of the excess trapped water. The next step is to remove all the drain plugs from every pump in the system. For the pumps with lids, I like to loosen the lids. Don't take them off, just loosen them enough to break the seal. But all pumps with lids have 2 drain plugs in them. The drain plugs are located on the outside of the pump. One is at the bottom of the strainer housing, and the other is at the bottom of the pump housing. So you want to take both of those plugs out. I like to put the plugs in the pump basket so they don't get lost. Once you take the plugs out, that'll completely drain the pumps. Don't forget to do all the pumps in the system. So if they have multiple pumps, make sure you do them all. If there is a pull sweep that uses an auxiliary pump, don't forget to take the drain plug out of that one as well. There's only one of those drain plugs, and it's at the bottom of the pump housing. Okay, on to step 6. If there's a salt system, a chlorinator, or a UV system, you want to completely remove it from the circulation system. Any kind of unions that are holding it in, go ahead and take those unions off and remove the salt system, chlorinator, or UV system. Store it somewhere safe so that it can't get damaged, just to protect it from any kind of bad weather that we may be having. And then lastly, the heater, the most expensive piece of equipment on the equipment pad. And depending on the age of the heater, you may or may not have unions that can easily be removed to drain the heater. The best case scenario is that if you do have unions, go ahead and remove the unions from the heater to allow it to drain. If there aren't any unions, instead, if you have flanges, you'll need some tools to remove the flanges. Usually a 1/2-inch wrench or socket will get those flanges off so that you can drain the heater. There are also drain plugs on the heater. They're on the headers, on the front and rear header, so on both sides there would be drain plugs that need to be removed if you can't detach the heater from the pipes with unions. So sometimes on trying to find those drain plugs on the heater headers is a little difficult. Sometimes you have to remove some sheet metal to get back to them to remove the drain plugs. But it is very, very important that we drain the heater as well as the rest of the equipment.
So in addition to draining the filter, the pumps, the heater, removing any salt systems or chlorinators that you can, loosening or just completely removing any unions, things like that. There are, some other steps that you can take as well. One would be get a tarp and cover the pool equipment. However, in that situation, I do not recommend that people get space heaters and put a tarp over their pool equipment and put a space heater up underneath the tarp. I've seen far too many tarps catch on fire because of the space heaters and burn the equipment up. So definitely don't recommend that. But it's any kind of preventative measures that you can do on top of draining all the equipment, wrapping the pipes, those kind of things would be helpful as well.